Friend! Oh, new friend! Oh, friend! Please be my friend! Oh, friend!
Hello and welcome to Cheap Shot Entertainment. You are the Cheap Shot Nation. As ever, I am your host Luke, and we're going to take you through everything that happened on NXT. UK TakeOver Blackpool took place on the 12th of January 2019 in the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool. Obviously, by the name TakeOver Blackpool, you knew it was in Blackpool. Who didn't? If you're a wrestling fan, click that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when we're uploading new videos. And we do this every single week for NXT UK. It's an exciting time in the British revolution of wrestling, and hopefully we're going to start going to more indie shows in the next couple of weeks or so. So we're going to pick up those. But in the meantime, like I say, this is everything that happened at NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. Barn burner of a show. I like using that term. Thank you, JR. New and first ever NXT UK Tag Team Champions crowned, and we've also got the Women's Championship and the main spectacle. That's spectacle, yeah, spectacle. And that's not Bendigo. That is the NXT UK Championship, or the WWE UK Championship as it's known at the moment. I sense a rebranding maybe moving forward. Anyway, let's move forward on to the first match. We hope you will join us there. And so your first match of the evening, we are guaranteed to get a new champion crowned. It is the NXT UK Tag Team Championships up for grabs. We've got Mustache Mountain, the crowd favourite. Everyone in the Prediction League pretty much made this their team for winning the championships moving forward, including me if you've watched those prediction videos. And we've got the grizzled young veterans, that is Zach Gibson and James Drake. I really like these two. They're a really good tag team, and whatever happens and whatever happened, I was quite happy for either team to win. But it was in fact a surprise victory for the grizzled young veterans of Zach Gibson and James Drake. They won absolutely cleanly. The referee let a lot of things go. There was a lot of isolation of Trent Seven in this match. Obviously the target was on the knee. Mustache Mountain sporting a new look, bit of a throwback to the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy and Dynamite Kid. Obviously we tragically lost Dynamite Kid at the back end of 2019. Major veteran, major name in the UK of making UK wrestling a thing in the late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, like I say, it was the grizzled young veterans that came out on top in this one, and you have new NXT UK Tag Team Champions in James Drake and Zach Gibson. There was some really good spots in this match. It was a really good match. It went about 25 minutes. Not usual for a tag team match to go that long. There was lots of quick tags. There was a double aeroplane spin from Tyler Bate, which was absolutely crazy on both Zach Gibson and James Drake. But ultimately, it was Tyler Bate who made the mistake, perhaps not even a rookie mistake, a young mind mistake, by take out the other two guys, take out the grizzled young veterans. They countered it. Tyler Bate ended up on the floor after a sort of doomsday device where James Drake jumped out of the ring while Tyler Bate was on Zach Gibson's shoulders. That took him out, and from there you had Zach Gibson and James Drake hit the Ticket to Mayhem, which is the assisted code breaker for the win. Clean win. Zach Gibson and James Drake are your new champions. Fantastic match, great way to start the show, and I'm looked forward from this point, look forward to the rest of the matches on the card, because it is looking really, really good, and it was absolutely fantastic. The second match of the evening, bearing in mind this was being sent out live here in the UK, we got to see it at 7 o'clock in the evening, so nice and reasonable for us over in the UK. The second match of the evening featured Travis Banks and Jordan Devlin. A little bit of a rivalry building up. They did a good job of building it in such a short time, with Banks only just coming back, taking out his frustrations on them first, and then Jordan Devlin struggling for an opponent that matched up to him. Put his target on firmly square in the corner of Travis Banks. Now, what we did get was a video of something that happened earlier on in the day, and it was Jordan Devlin taking out Travis Banks. Obviously didn't want to fight Travis Banks with his momentum going into this pay-per-view, into TakeOver Blackpool. And so, as Travis Banks was arriving, Jordan Devlin attacked him, threw him into the wall, injured his knee, and basically Travis Banks did come out. You could see that his knee was hurt, and as Devlin was coming out making his entrance, Travis Banks jumped at him. The bell hadn't even sounded at this point. Eventually, Devlin did get on top and throw Travis Banks into the steps, and that was the end of that. Travis Banks ends up getting carried out. It's not the end of this match, and it's definitely not the end of that rivalry. So what did we get instead? Well, we got the Jordan Devlin interview spot. No, we didn't. We got to see a veteran. We got to see someone who we all know from a bigger show. Someone who is from the UK, someone who is Irish. And if you hadn't figured out who that was, Jordan Devlin's surprise opponents, handpicked by the general manager and his assistant, was Finlay. I'm just kidding, it wasn't. It was Finn Balor. Finn Balor's music hits, the smoke hits, the biggest pop of the night besides Pete Dunne when he makes his entrance later. Great show of him coming down and he doing all his woo and all that kind of stuff. Obviously there's history between these two, with Finn Balor getting Jordan Devlin into wrestling in the first place, training him for years and years and years before he went off to Japan and WWE. Devlin always says that he wanted to step out of the shadow of Finn Balor, and this is his perfect opportunity to do that. It is Finn Balor versus Jordan Devlin in the second match. Great surprise there, and yeah, really good. It was an okay match. I think it's probably, it's sad to say, it's probably the weakest match of the night, in my opinion, because you've got two guys, obviously they're friends outside the ring. You could tell they put on a good match, they put on a clinic of wrestling. Obviously when you've got one who trained the other, it's really difficult to perhaps go against each other in like head to head. That being said, it was a good match, but in my opinion it was the weakest match. It did end with Finn Balor hitting the coup de grace on Devlin, high and tight, straight into the stomach. Devlin could not get up from that move, and Finn Balor picked up the win. Should be said, and I said this to Woody last night when we was watching it, But yeah, it's nice to bring those big names in and see and sort of tout it, but no one knew that was going to happen. So you could tell by the crowd reaction. I certainly didn't know it was going to happen. So it was nice. It was a nice surprise. Really like Finn Balor, but he's got bigger things in his future this year. My prediction for Finn Balor is that he's going to become two-time Universal Champion at some point this year. Yeah, well, like I say, it was nice to bring that over. Gives the first pay-per-view some credibility, UK TakeOver. But there's other people that could have stepped into that spot. I don't know who, but I would have liked to have seen someone else step into that spot and try and go against Devlin. Like I say though, it was a decent match, but definitely the weakest on the card, sadly. And so the third match of the evening featured Eddie Dennis, and he was going against Bomber Dave Mastiff in a no disqualification match made by Sid Scala, the assistant to the general manager on NXT UK tapings last week. Wow, what a match. These two just beat the living hell out of each other. There was chairs, there was stairs, there was tables. There was no ladders, sadly, but the table definitely got the biggest pop in terms of weapons. Eddie Dennis beating the tar out of Dave Mastiff with a kendo stick. It didn't really go outside of the ring area when I've seen Eddie Dennis in these kind of matches before. Obviously, it's been on the independent scene, so basically it's been a case of, you know, you can go anywhere, they can fight outside and all that kind of stuff. Obviously with WWE it's more enclosed, you want to make sure that the fans see everything that's going on. But wow, what a match. Sleeper hit of the night. And I kind of knew from these two guys that they were just going to beat the tar out of each other and just put on a really, really good show. There was no headlocks, there was no flying head scissors, there was some drop kicks, and Eddie Dennis, back to my prediction video, Eddie Dennis did actually hit the 7 bridge. Didn't quite go all the way into the corner, but it's quite impressive that Eddie Dennis could pick 315 pounds of Dave Mastiff up over his head and then powerbomb him into the centre of the ring. It didn't finish there. Dave Mastiff, Bomber, used the table that Eddie Dennis had set up earlier in the match. Did use the kendo stick, used the stairs as well. But the match finished with a headbutt from Dave Mastiff, knocks Eddie Dennis silly. He falls onto the table, and Bomber then hits the rolling senton, the cannonball senton, onto Eddie Dennis in the corner where the table is set up, puts him through the table, gets the 1, 2, 3, your winner, and still undefeated is Dave Mastiff, the monster of NXT UK. And your fourth match of the evening is the NXT UK Women's Championship match featuring Toni Storm, and she is going against the current and first ever NXT UK champion in Rhea Ripley. Of course, Rhea Ripley did defeat Toni Storm in the finals of that championship tournament to win and become the first ever, the inaugural women's champion in NXT UK. Toni Storm did pick up a back injury in that match, and that would come into play in this match. Got a massive target on that injured back. Didn't keep her out for very long, but again, wow, what a match. Definitely second in line to the main event, which was absolutely stunning. It was a clinic of UK wrestling by the two in the main event, but this is a clinic in women's wrestling here in the UK with Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley just going at each other, throwing fists at each other until they were both exhausted. There was multiple riptides, there was multiple Storm Zeros all being kicked out of. Each lady hit everything they possibly could against the other, but it was Toni Storm that came out on top in this match after being isolated and beaten up by the much stronger Rhea Ripley. She does come out on top here, hitting the Storm Zero for the second time. She did try it early on and it was countered, but she hits it for a second time and Rhea Ripley could not answer the 3 count. You have a new NXT UK Women's Champion and she is Toni Storm, and going forward that's really, really cool. I'm surprised that Rhea Ripley didn't hold it for a little bit longer. WWE only recognised the fact that she'd won it in November, although she won it in August, and because that's when the taping was. Breaking kayfabe again, but yeah, Rhea Ripley's done a really good service to that championship, holding it, keeping it warm for Toni Storm going forward. So congratulations to Toni Storm. Massive year for her last year, winning the Mae Young Classic, beating lots of really big names to do so, and is now your NXT UK Women's Champion, which I always had the feeling that should have been the case, but with the injury, probably like an Andrade Cien Almas, sometimes these accidents do work. And Rhea Ripley's been an absolute servant to that championship, defending it against all comers. But congratulations to NXT UK Women's Champion, the new NXT UK Women's Champion, Toni Storm. Match number 5 on the card in Blackpool featured your current and reigning and defending UK champion Pete Dunne, and he was going to be facing his toughest test that he's had to date in Joe Coffey, the leader of Gallus, also featuring Mark Coffey and Wolfgang. This match, it's a bit like the 6-man tag on NXT UK episode 24. You'd probably be best off just going and watching this match. It was an absolute clinic of wrestling, British strong style. You've got the smaller, sort of borderline cruiserweight, or bruiserweight in this case, in Pete Dunne, and the full-on heavyweight in Joe Coffey. Nice clash, nice mix of styles here, but Joe Coffey also showing that he can fly and get to the top rope, although he did spill a couple of times and it looked really nasty. I think he came out with a swollen eye from just losing his balance on the top rope a couple of times. Joe Coffey using his strength to power out of moves, everything that Pete Dunne did, try and do, Joe Coffey countered, everything Joe Coffey did. Pete Dunne countered, and it was just a really, really, really good match. It felt like it went on for about 30 minutes, and that's unusual for a championship match. But for something of this calibre, first ever NXT UK takeover, it was just, and it wasn't boring or anything like that. It was just full on all the way through. There was no rundown from Mustache Mountain, no interference from Gallus. It was just Joe Coffey and Pete Dunne beating the snot out of each other. And I really, really liked this match. Definitely the match of the night, as you could expect, as you would expect from Pete Dunne and Joe Coffey. I really like both of these guys. I love the fact that they pretty much carried NXT UK tapings so far, along with an undercard of talent such as Ligero and Morgan Webster and all those kind of guys as well. They've done a really, really good job. And just a few things that went off in this match. Submissions. Pete Dunne got a submission onto Joe Coffey. Joe Coffey powered out with a power slam. And this is how the joint manipulation versus the power. There was a jackknife power bomb from Joe Coffey that got him the near fall. There's turnbuckle shots. There's side slams. There's fighting on the ramp. There's counters upon counters. There's a springboard from Joe Coffey, like I say, shows he can fly as well, which was countered with a stiff forearm shot from Pete Dunne. And towards the end of the match, they were both hitting, a bit like the Rhea Ripley Toni Storm match, they were both hitting their finishes, countered, kicked out, near falls, all this kind of stuff. But it was eventually a bitter end from Pete Dunne, which Joe Coffey did kick out of, and then both guys were out on the floor, having spilled onto the floor the second time. I think Joe Coffey managed to pull Pete Dunne with him this time, but you could tell that Joe Coffey was hurt from the first time they did it. His eyes swelling up. I think he must have gone into the barrier. Pete Dunne took control of this. Both guys managed to get back into the ring at a count of 9. Pete Dunne immediately goes for an arm lock, sort of Fujiwara arm bar sort of thing, and gets Joe Coffey's fingers and starts manipulating them. Joe Coffey is absolutely exhausted. Both guys exhausted at this point. And Joe Coffey does eventually tap out to the sort of cross arm breaker, sort of chokey type thing that Pete Dunne puts on, where he's sat on top of the opponent. So your winner, and still 604 days into his reign, which started on 20th of May 2017. Absolutely phenomenal competitor, absolutely phenomenal champion. It's going to be a long time before that is equalled, going past Brock Lesnar, but at least Pete Dunne has actually defended his championship, whereas Brock Lesnar hasn't really. I mean, Brock Lesnar won his championship at Survivor Series, and he hasn't defended it since. So yeah, it gives you the idea of how much of a fighting champion Pete Dunne is. He's gone to other promotions as well. I've been doing some research on it for an article I'm going to be writing, and he's had at least 20 defences of his championship in that 600 days. So that's, like I say, at least once every 30 championship, and sometimes a couple of times in a month, and then missing a couple of months. He's defended on NXT. He's been in matches that he hasn't defended his championship in, but he even had a champion versus champions match with Ricochet on NXT, which was a no contest because Undisputed Era came down, but it was such a good match. I don't think I've seen a bad match from Pete Dunne in NXT so far, and Joe Coffey, really impressed with the guy. I hope he does pick up the championship at some point because I think he'd be a really good champion. Anyway, like I say, your winner, still champion, going over Mark Coffey, or Joe Coffey in this match rather, is Pete Dunne, the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne. So after the match, Pete Dunne is obviously celebrating with his championship victory, retaining the championship, when music hits. Who could it be? Someone 7 foot tall, someone from Europe, someone who could probably ski based on where he's from. Although I wouldn't like to get in his way. It is indeed the debut of Walter. Some rumblings around the NXT UK universe that he would be arriving very soon, and we got to see him, and wow, what a spectacle he is. Not seen any of his work. I'm going to perhaps try and watch a few of his matches, see where he's at. Not seen him in any of the promotions that I go to, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. He looks interesting. Just hoping the WWE are not going to paint him as another big man, you know, boots and things like that. Although Joe Coffey gets into the ring as Pete Dunne and Walter are staring each other down, and say staring each other down, Walter's right up here, Pete Dunne's down here, so they're kind of, Walter's staring down at Pete Dunne's staring up at Walter. Joe Coffey gets in, tries to interject, say, oh, this is my kingdom. Walter gives him a kick in the face for good measure, and we have a stare down. Perhaps Pete Dunne's next opponent is going to be Walter, but I hope they're going to put him on NXT UK tapings first to build that up. But yeah, looking forward to what the future brings. A fantastic show from top to bottom. And so that is everything that happened in NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. You have 2 new sets of champions in the NXT UK Tag Champions, grizzled young veterans, Zach Gibson, James Drake, and Tony Storm picking up the victory against Rhea Ripley to become the second ever UK Women's Champion. And of course Pete Dunne retaining his championship, making his reign last a little bit longer, 604 plus days as we speak, as we record this. Absolutely epic. Like I say, top to bottom, really good show. So there's only one match that I didn't really get into, and that was Finn Balor versus Jordan Devlin. I can't really explain why I didn't get into it, just some matches don't do it for me. But the rest of the card, the rest of the matches were absolutely brilliant. That match wasn't bad, it was just one of the weaker on the cards. And they only got 5 matches on the main show. I think there was 3 in the pre-show, which I haven't watched, which I probably will watch at some point, just to have the whole perspective of what's going into episode 25 of NXT UK tapings on Wednesday. So that is everything that's happened. You've been the Cheap Shot Nation. I've been your host Luke. If you don't agree with the review, leave comments down below. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what you thought of NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. If you was there, let us know. We couldn't get tickets. Tickets sold out in half an hour. We had it right there. We couldn't get people to say yes because different people are at work and things like that. But we will try and get to the next one live and perhaps do some vlogging on there. But again, thank you for subscribing. We're nearly there. We're nearly at 200 subscribers. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is to us. It is to me. worked hard on this channel for the last 6 months, and I really, really appreciate you guys and what you're doing for us as a channel. So on that note, click the subscribe button, hit a big boot on that notification bell, and don't forget to leave us a comment down below. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.